My sister Maria was 7 and I was 6, and it was 8th of December, 1941. And we were at the cathedral because we were celebrating the feast of the Immaculate Conception, and that's the patron saint of the island of Guam. Many people came to Agana from all over, from down south and up north in bull carts with all their farm produce, even, a few days before that, to join in with other families who live in Agana for the fiesta. My sister Maria and I were dressed in angels' clothes, outfit white, long flowing, just like you see pictures of angels, with wings and a veil with a flower crown, holding a white basket full of petals.
This was a Monday here. Of course, in Pearl Harbor, it was Sunday because of the time differential.
After the Mass, they bring Our Lady of Camarin, which is a legendary statue, for the procession, and that's when we will come out, the little angels who are sitting up in front, and we will start singing this one particular hymn that we used to sing in those days, and throwing flowers, say, Pau Pau Naninai. And it's a fragrant gift we give to you, to our Blessed Mother. But we never got to use our basket, and we never got to sing it.
What people saw then was 9 airplanes flying, over Agana towards the naval base, the other end of the island.
Right during the Mass, we heard drones of airplanes coming. And I got so excited because I thought, oh my gosh, Bannan is coming. And so I start, nudging the girl next to me, Bannan is coming, Bannan is coming. And then my sister Maria said, be quiet, keep your mouth shut, because we're at Mass. And I said, oh, not one Bannan, I think so many Bannans are coming. Listen, listen. I hear many, sounds of many airplanes coming, and I was so excited.
Most of our people felt they were American planes. In fact, I heard someone say that, my golly, that's great to see those planes because, that's American planes. They're here to defend us, Not knowing that those were Japanese planes, and those were planes coming from Saipan.
And just all of a sudden, Bishop Ulano stopped the Mass. Somebody came first to talk to him, whispered to him, and then later on, he came up to the podium. But this was after, the planes were coming our way. And he told us that the Japanese have started the war on Guam, and that we're not going to continue the Mass, and that to wait until all the planes have gone by and wait a few minutes to see that there are no more planes coming by, and then we can run home.
The only thing I could see were, hundreds of people, running all over the chapel area.
And so everybody starts shrieking, crying, screaming, all the grown-ups, because we kids didn't know what was going on. And we got so scared, and then we couldn't find my dad, and my dad brought us there because my mom stayed home with the little ones. We had no idea which way was home. We were all confused, whether go to the left, go to the right, or go straight, to the front. And we were crying. Then pretty soon my aunt, Auntie Anna, my mother's sister, found us, and it was really shocking to see the behavior of the grown-up when you're 6 years old, because in those days they always wear veil to be in church, and they were all dressed up in high heels and stocking. But to see my auntie with her veil out, from her head, and she was carrying her high heel, and her hair was adhesivo, and crying. And as we were going, another plane came by and swooping down, she pulled us under a house. And I landed on a turtle because this family was raising a turtle, and the turtle had already had lots of eggs. And so we stayed there till the planes were gone, and then she took us home.
The red light going to Agana. That is the area where I heard the 9 plane. Only one plane coming to Guam, Pan American, from ML. Other than that, no, nothing. So when I heard the plane, boom, then I stopped the car, look up, I saw 9 plane. And when I saw the 9 plane, they start going down, throwing bomb. They start flaming. I keep driving down to Sumay. Before I come to Sumay, where the area where I'm working, so people coming, rushing, walking, running, and they hollering, ho, 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 because there's a plane bombing the island. So then people are jumping into my pickup, let's go down, take us to Agana, take us to Agana. So I took them down to Agana. So when I come to Agana, people are rushing, calling for ride. So I use the pickup, taking people up to Sinahana, Barigada, Deridon, or so forth.
And my dad already had my mom holding Virginia in her lap, and bundles of our clothing and pots and pans were already in there, and all the little ones were in the car waiting, I guess waiting for us. And so I was angry that he left us, and that if Antiana hadn't come by, we probably would be left behind. And then I remember that I was in a clown play at school just a few months before, before that, and they did not take my clown suit, so I ran upstairs to get my clown suit.
And so we all, went home. The information we got was that Pearl Harbor was bombed earlier that morning. And so the advice by the governor, the governor there was George McMillan, who was a naval captain. And so he advised the people to, find refuge somewhere because the Japanese, were attacking. And so we left Agana, our home, and we went to my maternal grandparents' ranch in Mokfok. This is maybe about 8 miles away, So we all went there and stayed there.
We were pulled down into the vehicle and got in there, and we started to drive when 3 more airplanes started coming back down, and people were panicking all over the streets of Agana. And people were crying to my dad and everyone, Antonio, por favor, conniam, take us. And they were clinging on the side of the vehicle and on the hood. And my dad, it was the most shocking thing I've ever seen in my whole life. The whole day was nothing but shock for me, because my dad was pulling people off, punching people, pushing them away from the vehicle so he could drive. Because everybody wanted to get on, we couldn't get out of the, he couldn't even drive away from where we're at. So he had to tell them, I cannot take all of you, we're going up to our ranch.
Before the war, very few people are staying in the ranch. Most of them are staying in Agana. But when the war broke out, they moved to their property, and after the war, they just settled there.
The Japanese were really prepared. In fact, when they came here, they could have walked in. They didn't have to fight to take Guam. They didn't have to bomb Guam. They only bombed Guam to show that they meant business. I mean, that they're coming.
Authority never told us what to do, what not to do during they know them well there's going to be an invasion, but they never prepare us.
I think Guam was just a piece of soil, out in the Pacific. Nobody really cares much about defending it. By November of 1941, the Navy decided that there's no use defending the island. That's why I believe in the middle of October of 1941, that's when all the military dependents were evacuated to Hawaii and to the West Coast. There were about 104 of them. These were the dependents of the military personnel here, along with the families of I believe the manager of the Atkins Coal Company and the Pan American and so forth. So those people were evacuated from the island. And so that's a good indication that there might be war.
My father was recalled in 1940, again, back to the Navy. And I was telling classmates and all that pretty soon we're gonna have war. And I said, we cannot defend our island because there's only 200 American servicemen in Guam. How can we defend against Japan? And they call me pro-Japanese. But I only say that because I know I study about the condition of the war because my dad is a military man.
At least most of the adults then were very patriotic to America, although they were not Americans, they were not citizens of the country. Nonetheless, they were very patriotic. And they felt that America was the greatest nation on earth. The people here in Guam, and I'm talking about the local people, the Chamorros, believe that it's virtually impossible for any country to challenge America because of the hugeness of the country, you know, the resources of the country. And no one ever thought that there would be a war, especially with Japan. Because we know Japanese, we had many Japanese families here, you know. And to us, they were good people, you know, they're nice people, they don't cause any problem. Most of them have small stores, as they do today. And very friendly, very quiet, they mind their own business, you know, that type of people. So it's difficult to imagine that they would challenge America.
People don't take it seriously because the military, which is the Navy, control Guam. And they never say anything about the impending, say, disaster. Nothing. And all of a sudden, you know, the Japanese hit Guam. And we don't know what to do.
The only military personnel here who were trained militarily were the Marines. We had about 157 Marines. And then you have about 120 insular guards. These were local men who joined the Navy, but the insular guards was actually an adjunct to the regular Navy. They were not real. I mean, for one thing, they only received half the pay of the regular Navy, so you can see there's a difference, right? We had about 97 rifles, Springfield rifles, and they assigned the rifles to the insular guard men. Yeah. And the thing about it is that, you know, it's becoming, you know, a comedy, because the Springfield rifles, they had, you know, they had a label in the main part of the rifle. There's a label there that said, "Do not shoot, for training only." and my God, and you assign this to the insular guardsmen to fight the Japanese. And the insular guards, you know, they were only organized in April of '41, see? So they had 6 months to train. There was one troop ships, you know, laden with soldiers, about 5,500 Japanese troops. And these guys, you know, took part in war in Manchuria. You know, remember Manchuria was seized by the Japanese in 1931? Some of these Japanese troops had war experience in Manchuria. That was about 5,500 troops, okay? Now we have about maybe 400 fellows here who were to meet these guys. And then the Japanese had a special naval unit, about 400. And this special naval unit were trained in Saipan. You know, Saipan is only about 135 miles away. And it was a special unit, and they were, for about 6 months, they were training to take Guam. See? So you had these two groups, see? Actually, what happened was that the special unit was actually the one that entered Guam in Agana on December 10 and seized the island. They knew everything about the island. The Japanese had better maps of the island than the Americans. But within a matter of maybe 15, 20 minutes, it was over, you know. A number of people were killed at the plaza. And then I believe by 6 o'clock that morning, government surrendered the island to the Japanese. Everybody who is not local, who is not Chamorro, had to surrender. And even the bishop, who was a Spaniard, you know, had to turn themselves in, and eventually they were taken to Japan as prisoners of war
Oh my goodness, thousands and thousands of Japanese coming in. Big horses and no trucks, no nothing. Horse, big horse. We saw several people died along the road. So I know two of them.
The Japanese bombed the island in December 8, but they did not invade until December 10. And so, and just by coincidence, when my dad went down to Agana to get provisions, the Japanese had already invaded the island. And in fact, my dad was participated in burying, dead people, because when the Japanese landed, they just, of course, moved to Agana and just shot everybody on their way to Agana. And my dad told me, he helped bury about 30 people. If you have any guns or rifles, you have to surrender them. You have to surrender any communication equipment, like radios and so forth. Also, you have to turn in American currency. But they would exchange it, So you turn in your dollars, and they'll exchange it for yens, And the exchange rate then was 1-to-1.
The first thing we did, we have to register with the Japanese. They give us a tag. And then my first job, I would say job during the Japanese, is that the interpreter, which is the interpreter of the Japanese, tell us to go out and ask the farmers to give eggs, chicken and vegetable. Then we take it back to the headquarters for the Japanese. Then after that, they took us to the airfield, which is the airport now, and start building that by manual, most of the time by manual. In other words, two person they put a sack with a handle, and we carried that with gravel, we spread it, then tamper that. So finally the Japanese airplane managed to land in that airfield, which is the airport now, the international Guam airport.
Those days, sometimes we take us down to the ship to load coal. And we all black, we on the ship shoveling. And then sometimes they send us, because we don't know where we're going. Every day when we come to work, they send us this way, send up to different places. Depends on the group name. So I work at the airport again. So we work, sometimes 10 or 12 hours. So we pick the coal, put in a sack, and carry it and empty it, all by hands. So that is the way how we're doing that. Start out the air base. So there's a roller machine. So they ask who can drive that roller machine. I volunteer to drive because it's easier for me than to be carrying that. But it's so hard, because sitting around a roller, going back and forth, just by yourself, you don't talk to nobody. But in a group, working with the group, it's so nice, because we're teaching each other, we love each other, we eat together. So that's the way. It's more fun with the group than to be sitting on that roller.
They transferred me to another job to install canyon at the Parry Point. So what we did, the interpreter tell us, go and cut coconut and cut it 10 feet long. We use that for dummy. We cut the coconut, then they give us a black pen, and we paint the front, and we install that at the cliff. So every 5 dummies, we make it, we push it out so that the ship or the airplane can see that dummies, then they install the real one a little bit further in, so that when that real canyon shoot, before they hit the real one, they hit the dummies first. So that's what we did. We carried the coconut, I think, about 3 to 4 miles to the cliff and install it over there. Slapping you is just nothing to them. If they don't like the way you look, they'll just slap you,
Ask you to bring 5 dozen of eggs tomorrow. You have to bring 5 dozen. If you don't make it, they whack you. They hit you in the head, they hit you in the back, the lower circle on the ground. You stand there, raise your hand. They just whip you with what do you call that? Bull bat or stand tongue and neck. Dami man tubig. Mas kada pang bagmadyo at that time.
And people are scared. The place where the Japanese are staying, if you're walking and you come across to that, you have to stand at attention and bow. Even if you don't see any Japanese, you just have to bow during on that building, you know. If you didn't and they see you, boy, you get it.
They're supposed that the Japanese have erected that we have to get off our vehicle or our book cart and go and face them and bow down to them. And if they like the young woman or the woman that they see, they just go over there and start, you know, accosting them or touching inappropriately their breast or, you know, and nobody can protest. So we just have to endure it. So my mom usually would take the baby and me so that nobody will molest her or touch her.
My wife is part Japanese because her mother is half Japanese. That Japanese officer interested of her. So she proposed to my wife and said, my wife says, I got a boyfriend. And who's your boyfriend? Is out there. So my girlfriend went out there and called me in. I said, what are you to this girl? I said, she's my girlfriend for over a year. I said, well, from now on, don't talk to her. Don't do anything to her. Don't marry. If you get married, boom, cut you off. So that officer said, from now on, quit. You're no longer a boyfriend. Huh? And the interpreter says, John, answer say yes. So that before I answer yes, this officer stand up, get his sword, pull it out, and slam it down to the table. Oh, you understand what I said? I said, no. Yes or no? I said, yes. So then, after I said yes, he went over to my girlfriend and says, talk to her. Oh, you understand that? She says, no, no more, huh? My wife says, no, I don't want. I'm still my girlfriend. So she got slapped again. Not this way, not this way, this way, boom, boom. 9 this way and 9 this way, 18 times.
I remember the times when some of the Japanese will come by our house and push us off the table and we'll sit down and eat our food. And a lot of times that was the only meal we're gonna have for the day.
All the farmers, they'll go out and count how many pigs you have. If you have, for example, 10 pigs, they tell you that if you're going to kill any pig, you have to get permission from them because it's belong to the emperor. So we put, for example, 10 pigs in this fence. So what we did, we built another fence farther, maybe about 1 mile from the fence where they check the number of pig. Every time it gave birth, we take the small pig and put it way to the other fence so that when we kill pig, we will have everything for us. Because if you kill pig within that fence, which the Japanese count the number already, after you clean, you have to call them and they'll choose the piece that they want, and then what they don't want, that's for you. So the only way to get the whole pig is we have it on the other fence about mile and a half, you know. So every time they check the number of pig, it's still 10, but we have more than 10 on the other side. Whenever we go hunting, we hide that in the jungle, you know. We never bring it close to the house. And I think we are lucky because during that time, there's no typhoon, and whatever we plant, it produces. We plant sweet potatoes, bananas, and everything, and it produces. We don't need fertilizer during that time. And people will eat even coconut. We eat sometimes, you know, because the crop is not ready to be harvested. And then this breadfruit, sometimes it's not ready. People are eating that already, you know.
We didn't have much food to eat other than whatever my dad can butcher. We ran out of rice and flour and everything else. And so we had to rely on the season of when things are ripe, like breadfruit and taro and bananas and, you know, eggs. I think we ate eggs most all the time. That was what kept us alive. And drinking water and coconut juice, the juice, you know, not milk, but the juice from the coconut. and my dad did some fishing.
Whenever we killed a cow or calf or something like that, they preserve the skin. And we make something like jewelry, something like that, you know. And then during that time, we look for used tire to make something for our feet, you know. And during that time, there's very few tires on the island, not like now, that they don't know where to dump those tires, you know. Whenever they change tire, boy, that is a treasure, you know. They cut that for your feet. I learned how to make basket because we are raising chicken, and that's the only thing we use for the chicken to lay eggs, you know. We don't have any bugs or whatever it is, so my parents teach me how to make basket with basket, and that's what we use for the chicken. We are raising some cows. We have to make rope from the paugu tree because they don't sell anything at all. You know? I have a tuba tree, 50 trees every morning. I cut for vinegar and syrup. Boy, that's good. And there's one guy here on the island that make aggie for drinking, you know, make you drunk.
We use coconut to make syrup. And we use coconut to make vinegar, you know. We use coconut to make oil. See, so we get to learn those things so that we were able to survive, you know, during the war. All the Americans surrendered except 6. These were the 6 Navy men who decided not to surrender. And their thinking then was that, you know, the Americans are going to be back within a matter of a few weeks, maybe a few months at the most. So why surrender? Why don't we just hide out in the jungles and wait? And so the 3 that stuck together in the central part of Guam, they were eventually, in the summer of 1942, they were tracked down there. They were forced to dig their own graves, and they were beheaded. The 2 others were eventually tracked down in Jigo, the northern part of Guam, and they were shot. And then Tweed was the only one who was able to evade the Japanese. And the only reason he was able to successfully evade the Japanese was that he was being harbored by Chamorro families, you know, families throughout the island.
They torture my friend. He became my compadre. They torture all his family. He never revealed west to it.
The Japanese suspect that you're harboring him. They put him in another family, you know. It keeps on going, and the last hideout for Tweed is somewhere in Taragi, somewhere in that area. And I think that Tony Teru take care of Tweed during that time.
Every time my dad was to bring food and provision, he always took me. So I always helped my dad bring the food and things, but I would only stay at the bottom of the cliff. Then he'll take my gunny sack and he'll give me an empty gunny sack and say, "Here, Carmen, you fill this up with Federico nuts while I go up the cliff." And then I said, "Papa, where are you going?" He says, "None of your business, and you're not gonna ever ask again. Just do what I told you." So he left, and then, you know, I would do my task. And after the gunny sacks were usually 1 or 2 gunny sacks, and after the sacks were filled, then I have to just sit and wait for him. And one time, when he was doing that, it was near Christmas. And before that, like I said, my mom was getting flour and sugar and hiding it. My mom always made the best lemon pie because we always baked before the war. And my sister Maria and I used to go around the neighborhood selling all the cookies and bread, you know, buns and stuff like that. And so we were all so excited. We're gonna have lemon pie. We hardly ever had good food to eat since the war started, but now we're gonna have lemon pie. And then when the pie was finished, my dad and I took, you know, provision up to Tweed, I guess, and my mom put the pie in the gunny sack, and Dad carried that, and I said, "You're gonna give the pie away? Isn't that for us?" And my mom said, "Kilo patot mo, you know, keep your mouth shut, and don't even talk about it, and I don't want to hear anybody talk about, you know, mumble about the pie." So I felt real bad because we took the pie and lots of other food we took. And my dad went up the cliff, and he stayed there for so long that it got so dark, and it was just eaten up by mosquitoes. And then I remember the story of Hansel and Gretel, where she didn't like the kids and wanted them lost in the jungle. And then I was scared because I thought, oh, maybe I've been eating too much. And then I got, selfish, wanting the pie, that my dad's gonna leave me in the jungle for good. And so I started crying, Papa, I'm sorry, I don't wanna eat anymore, too much food, and I won't make any trouble, please come back for me. After we came home, my mama said the Christmas novena, and we sat by the front door and looking at the moon, because we didn't have any electricity, just candles, and we were singing. And then after that, my dad said to me, see, the pie, we gave it to somebody who has no one. It's all a person who's all alone, but your mama and I, we have each other, and we have you, and you have us. And we are so lucky, and we're so fortunate that God loves us and blessing us, and we have each other. Isn't that the greatest gift of all? And then we all say, yes, Papa. And then we say, well, let's pray for the person who has nobody, just his pie. So I thought that even though the smell of the pie is still lingering in the house, we have the smell of the pie and each other.
When the Americans start coming in, all the people from Zigo, we went to Manengon. That's where the concentration camp is, and stayed there for almost a month. We stay right next to the river. At night, during daytime we hide, nighttime we go out and take some water.
And you can see people going up, walking from Mangilo up to the concentration. You see people carrying their father or their mother on like a hammock, they're all skinny and dying and all that. And we come across an old man with 2 pigs. But they're all dead. Nobody pay attention. Nobody stopped to, nothing. So you can see that, they're tired, they're afraid and all that, not knowing what's going to happen. And see how the people suffer, especially children. And even old people, that are not fortunate enough to food. You can see their ribs, and a lot of children are dying from malnutrition, lack of medicine. People are drinking from polluted water, getting sick. Children are dying, no milk, nothing. We cannot even cook because, it's very restrictive.
The Americans were already bombing the island, So there were dogfights, aircraft, Japanese, American aircraft. I used to watch those things. Dogfights between American and Japanese planes. I mean, that's better than the movies. As the American plane come from the east, the Japanese would be shooting them up, with the anti-aircraft guns. And guess where the shrapnels land? They land in Norfolk, because the planes were coming in from the east, and they were shooting them up, And so the shrapnels, from the bullets landed in Norfolk, in our area. And but our elders were much smart enough. What they did, they built, shelters like airframe shelters, like a teepee, like an Indian teepee, And they'll cut, thick logs, and they'll build them, and they'll make it thick enough so that you have logs, maybe a foot wide with all logs, so that the shrapnel won't penetrate. See? So we were staying in I think we had about maybe 4 or 5 families who got together and stayed in that area.
My dad decided that we better go to the concentration camp so that the Japanese won't suspect that, we're hiding the American. And so we got all the food and clothing that we could get onto the bull cart, and my dad went to get the bull. And the bull, somebody let the bull go. Airplanes were coming in and zooming down, just everywhere. And we were so scared because they're shooting at our house. After a while, you hear the out on the ship go, boom, and then, boom, you know. So they're bombing us from the ship, they're shooting us from the air, also shooting and bombing from the air. We went and hid in a cave-like area with the Pangilinan family. And then my dad told me, Carmen, you take Maria and Sue, my cousin Sue, to the hen house and get some eggs because there's not enough eggs, you know, food to feed everybody in here. So when we went out, we came across two men, and my dad instructed me to tell, you know, the others, even though I'm younger than the other two, I guess I've been my dad's son doing all the things, mending fence and doing things outside. So don't talk, don't tell anybody anything. And so these two men, one is a Saipanese, one is a Chamorro from Guam, asked us, where are you going and where are your family? So, and we're not supposed to say. But my sister said, oh, we're just going to the hen house to get some eggs. And then said, oh, and where are your parents, your family? Oh, we were hiding down there on the cave. And then he said, do you know where Mr. Pangilinan, the Madleys are? I said, oh yeah, they're right down there with us. And so I was pinching, you know, for them not to talk and say, why are you pinching me? Why are you pinching me? And I, you know, but they don't want to stop anymore. So anyway, we went to the hen house and we got the eggs, and then the men followed us down. And even, to me, even if my sister and my cousin didn't say anything, they're still gonna follow us anyway, so they'll find out. So when they went down, they found Mr. Pangilinan and they told him that the Japanese wanted to see him. My dad said, John, don't go because it's a trick. Look at all the planes are here bombing, Americans are bombing here, and why would they want to take you and pay you for what you've done for them? And then John said, oh, I want to protect my wife and my kids, I'm going. So he left. The same two men came to our house and told my dad the same thing, that the Japanese a high officer wanted to pay you for all the good things you've done for them and for feeding them. And my father said, I can't believe you, you're lying. And they were carrying guns, just like before. So when the men were holding their gun and saying, yes, Tony, you have to come with us, I remember, oh, I know Papa has a gun, I know where it's at. So they didn't see me, so I ran and got the gun. And I came up to my dad and said, Papa, 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 look, I found a gun. And it distracted them, and my dad took the gun away from me and pointed it at the two of them and said, tell me the truth or I'll shoot you. So help me God, I'll kill the two of you right here. Oh, Ton, please don't shoot. And my dad pointed the gun at them. That's when they said, they told us that if you refuse and give us protest, that we're gonna tie you and your wife and the kids, and we're supposed to bring the whole family to them. But yes, they already tortured and killed Father Duenas and Mr. Manley, Mr. Pangilinan. And so my dad said, okay, so you get out of here before I kill you, and don't you dare say anything to anybody about us, or if you want to say, it's your own neck. And he said, we can't go back without you, because if we go back without you, they told us they'll kill us. And then said, then it's up to you to do whatever you want. But I'll give you 10 minutes. But after 10 minutes, I'm gonna get my dogs to come after you.
The Americans landed on July 21st. We didn't know. So it was 2 weeks later, after the July 21st, that we saw American troops, moving up the valley towards Jigo, the same direction that the Japanese were moving up 2 weeks earlier. We were just kids then. And we used to go up in the dog tree, watch what's going on. We watched the dog fights. Personally, I looked down at the valley. I saw a lot of soldiers going. The only problem is they were big guys. They were white. So I said, no, that's not Japanese, They're big and they're white, A group of us young folks, we ran down them because we figured they must be Americans. So we went down the valley and met the Americans. the American troops, moving up. This was in August. This was long after the, the invasion. They said, "What do you want, kid?" I said, "You have a chocolate candy." And what else do you want? Chewing gum.
And so we went up to Tweed's Cave. And on our way, I had my pet deer. And my dad kept saying, "I'm gonna kill your pet deer." And I keep saying, "No, Papa, please don't kill her." And then said, "Then you do something, get rid of her, because the Japanese will find her trail, and I'll be the lead of taking the family up to Tweed's Cave. I mean, up the cliff." He didn't say Tweeds because I didn't know anything about Tweeds in those days. And and you'll be in the back to cover all the trail and all our, the marks that we made. And so I was doing that, and I could hear Japanese voices in the far distance. And so my dad told me to get rid of my pet deer, and I had to break a stick, and I had to whip her and whip her and whip her. I was almost 9 years old at that time, and it's so painful to whip your own loving pet to make her go. And she just looked at me up with her eyes like, "Why are you torturing me?" And so finally she ran away, and I had to keep on making sure that my little brothers and sisters don't break any branches or twigs around. And I felt like I was not even walking on the ground anymore, like I was just floating on the air trying to protect our trail so that we will not be discovered. So we went up and stayed up there. When we got up there, my mom got sick. We did not know that she was pregnant. My dad did. And she lost the baby, and she was hemorrhaging so bad. My dad had to go down the cliff, and there was a fresh water pool by the ocean to get water for my mom. And he just kept doing that, and my mom just kept bleeding and bleeding, and we didn't have much food to eat. My mom and dad started saying the rosary, and I was coughing, and I had a fever. And we didn't have anything to drink or eat. It's already 2 days, we didn't have anything to drink. And then they started saying the rosary, and I got tired saying the rosary, so I took my rosary and I threw it on the wall of the cave. And I said, "I don't want to pray anymore. God doesn't want to hear us. He doesn't care to hear us." And so I left the cave and I went to the cliff, and I sat there and I just watched the ships. I saw the planes leaving, and I saw like men, like little ants coming out of the ship, and the planes coming into the land, shooting, and bomb falling. And I keep waving, "I'm over here, we're over here, come on, kill us and be done with. I can't take it anymore." And then my cousin Sus, I heard him from down below saying, "No, the Americanos are, but what Americano? The Americans are here." My papa said, "If it is Americano, then make one come in front of you and one behind you." And my dad was looking out, and I said, "Okay, make him take off his hat." And in tomorrow, and so my dad could see his head to see whether it's really an American man or what. So he took off his helmet. And then he looked in, and then my dad, then all of a sudden I heard my dad, Mama, ganman Americano, ganman mat Americano." "Yes, Mama," I said, "The Americans are here." And then told Sue to make them come in. So they came in the cave, and then that's when I got off my perch and I went inside the cave. And my mom, I was so angry. I was watching my mom and dad. They were hugging these two men, and they were crying. Mom and dad were crying. The Americans were crying. They were all hugging and kissing and crying. And then we went down from Tweed's Cave. We climbed down, and when we came down, we came to a clearing, and they made a path. And it was so shocking what I saw, because we walked for a long time, and we saw bodies hanging up on the trees. The Japanese evidently were up on the trees, and they were shot and killed, and they were just hanging there dead. It was so terrible and terrifying. And on this side, The dead Japanese were piled on this side, and the Americans were piled on this side, just bodies on top of each other. We were taken near a vehicle, and we were sat down and we were given water to drink. And then my mom talked to one of them. I didn't know what they were saying, but because it was in English. And then later on, my mom came to me and hugged me and crying, "Mommy, Mommy, it's your birthday. Today's your birthday. Today's your birthday." So that's why I said my birthday, August 8th, is significant because that's the day we were rescued.
According to the Japanese plan, they were coming here to stay for 1,000 years. They missed it by 997.
I make my mother cry. If it wasn't for you, we won't be living like this. But then I regret, and I'm sorry and all that. But the experience I got from the people around here during the war is it's worth more than $1 million to me. It's lucky that I did not go to the States. And I see the people, how they live, how generous they are, how shall I say, concerned about. Over here, if a neighbor catch a fish about this big, they divide that and give each. And in return too, what we have, see? My mother liked to make flour tortillas and donuts and give everybody. So I saw people how they live, how they suffer.
It's a really interesting part of our life, You can't beat it as far as having experience. That's why nowadays, in my generation, you name it, and we've been through it. We've been through war, we've been through typhoons and earthquakes, and polluted water, and other good things, You name it. My generation has gone through it.
To me, the story of war and what happens to you, even though you're a child, to me it's no different than anyone who is being physically or sexually being abused. It's still painful, and you feel like your soul is invaded, your life is invaded. Our whole island was invaded, and I feel it's wrong for two nations to war on top of a small island nation. And then after that, the two nations make amends to their war, but never made amends to us. I feel like we're not thought of as real people and afforded our equal rights. They gave us citizenship through an organic act where we had no say. And we're only Americans at the whims of the federal government. And we're not equal Americans as other Americans anywhere in the United States. And I feel that this justice has to be corrected. But in spite of all this, I want to say, just like my dad said, we love America and we love Americans. And I hope one day love and peace and justice will come about from all this.